I'm kind of passionate advocate of the FOAM Ed model. If you've ever heard that, that stands for free open access medical education, because I don't think that our ability to help people should be limited by our resources, because I've been there and I think that's not fair, right? And so if you're in a third world country or you're even in the US with a position that you can't afford, access to these types of things, I want people to be able to have them.
Hey, Smart Chiropractors, welcome to the Smart Chiropractor Show and our featured guest segment. I'm Dr. Jeff Langmaid. Here's my co-host, Dr. Jason Deitch, and we have an awesome featured guest today. He is a chiropractic radiologist as well as an awesome artist. We're going to talk all of that and much more. Dr. Matt Skalski. Matt, thanks for taking some time and chatting with us today.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me. Excited to talk to you guys.
It is our pleasure. I want to talk radiology, but before we do, I'm going to go under a wild assumption that you are into art before radiology. You're an incredible artist. Which came first? And if art did, what got you interested in art as a child?
Well, yeah. So though surprisingly, my art career kind of blossomed around the same time as my radiology stuff. I was getting kind of mid chiropractic programs when I started getting a little bit interested in radiology because I was, taking those courses. And then once, you become an intern and you find this time that you weren't used to having, I wanted to hit the ground running when I got into practice. So I started teaching myself graphic design and that type of stuff because I wanted to make sure I could market myself when I got into practice so I didn't go broke. And then I decided ultimately that I wanted to go into radiology kind of around that same time. So those kind of grew together. But yeah, maybe the art slightly ahead of time. And of course, I've always dabbled a little bit in little art things, but I've never kind of had a dedicated a hobby in art until probably around the time I started becoming interested in radiology.
Hey, Doc, do you have an email list of 300, 500 or more? If so, please connect with our team at thesmartchiropractor.com. With Patient Pilot, we can activate that email list and start generating reactivations into your practice each and every week. To schedule a demo and learn more, head over to thesmartchiropractor.com. Again, that is thesmartchiropractor.com. But right now, we'll head back over into this awesome interview on Interviews by the Smart Chiropractor.
Matt, I'm looking at your Instagram for those that want to follow along and see the art we're actually talking about. I know you also have a YouTube channel. We're actually teaching chiros both about radiology and art.
Yeah.
It is not common to find somebody who is both so left brain in radiology and right brain in art and bring those things together. And you literally do bring those things together. What's your vision for what you're doing? Is this just purely an expression of your passion and your love? Do you see, chiropractors using this art in their practices as just part of art and or patient education? What drives you? What do you hope to see as a result of all of this?
Yeah, well, so just to step back a little bit, kind of how I got into art initially was to help teach, basically, because I was, when you do a radiology residency in chiropractic, unlike medicine, you're expected to do quite a bit of teaching. And I was never actually interested in teaching. I just wanted to be a radiologist. I just wanted to read cases. But I grew to love teaching, and I realized that one of the ways I could really become a more effective teacher was to show images that had never been seen before to try and really, hone in on a specific educational point. And a lot of times teachers out there, they're searching for those types of resources. And I didn't want to be searching. I wanted to make them. And I think that's, again, when you're resource poor, you find a way to make your own resources. And so that's kind of what drove me. And then, over time, I've seen that, yeah, there's potentially use out there, of course, for other people to use my resources. And so I'm kind of a passionate advocate of the FOAM Ed model. If you've ever heard that, that stands for free open access medical education. Because I don't think that our ability to help people should be limited by our resources, because I've been there and I think that's not fair, right? And so if you're in a third world country, or you're even in the US with, in a position that you can't afford, access to these types of things, I want people to be able to have them. So early on, when I first started, I first posted my very first ever medical illustration when I started residency on Radiopedia, and there's a couple other places. And the people kind of were like, hey, this guy's doing something new and interesting that other people don't do. And so they kind of invited me on board. So it got me kind of in that community. And yeah, so it's kind of blossomed from there. So I do try and share most of my things out there for free for everyone to use. I do have some ideas for, monetizing that. Part of that is, people do pay me to commission illustrations for the research and things like that. I illustrate my own research. And so, yeah, I think going forward, of course, so I probably should separate things that I do for art for fun versus for work. So I do medical illustration as like reference material. That stuff I tend to charge for if someone wants to commission illustration, and then oftentimes, even if someone has commissioned it and paid me, then I'll still make it available to everyone else for free, and on the back end. But my time has to be compensated eventually. But and then I do art for fun. So I do lots of like a more whimsical medical art, where I put like turn vertebras into characters and these types of things. And yeah, that's just kind of fun. I do sell prints of that in my Etsy store, and I do charcoal illustrations. I've been getting into watercolor and stuff. And so yeah, so that's just more traditional art, but just kind of in a medical medium, I suppose. So yeah, I mean, it just kind of wherever I'm happy to go, basically, as long as I feel like, everyone's coming out ahead. I'm a generally happy person.
I think it all looks really awesome. And one thing I note as I look through a lot of the art that you've put out is that some of it appears to be sort of by hand, other appears to be digital. How do you think about that? Where do you spend most time? Is it with the digital tools? Is it by hand, whether it's by paintbrush or by charcoal or pencil? What's the process look like for you?
Yeah, well, so unlike most artists, I got started in digital, and now I'm finally finding my way back to traditional mediums. And I think maybe that's the era we're in, where people are kind of like sick of the digital world and they want to get back into the real world. But so if I have, I tend to do reference material, or I shouldn't say I tend to, I always do reference material in digital medium because I'm best at that. So I have the most experience in, and it gives me that ability to make endless revisions and adaptations of it, which are non-destructive. With traditional medium, it's a lot harder to hit Control Z. And maybe if I was a better artist, I wouldn't feel that way for a traditional medium. But I've only been doing charcoal illustrations for about a year now. I've only been doing watercolors for about a month. So those are kind of new things for me. But yeah, I like the digital medium. I initially started painting in Photoshop, so kind of semi-traditional-ish, using the brushes in there, and I bought a Wacom tablet to, draw and all that type of thing. Slowly over time, I've migrated to doing almost exclusively 3D modeling. Because what happens is if you make it like this diagram showing something, you put all this time in, and then you need some variation of that. Potentially that could be remaking an entire new illustration. And so up front, it's faster, but in the long term, it ends up being a lot more expensive in terms of time to make new content. Versus with 3D modeling, I can make endless permutations of it and kind of build, and I don't lose that time that I initially invest. So the upfront time is greater, but the payoff on the back end is much higher. So yeah, it just kind of really depends on what the goal is. But yeah, I'm happy doing all of it. But yeah, it's higher yield to do digital art for sure.
It is super impressive. Anybody, you're sort of the modern Frank Netter. I remember that was what we always looked at back in school. Just like amazing. These are drawings. It's just a remarkable talent.
I ripped off the signature too.
I actually noticed that too, which is what's related. I'm like, I know that's anyway. I know there's a saying about artists and whatever. Tell me your thoughts on, I noticed you had mentioned the 3 letters NFT. I know there's a lot of, I guess, confusion, controversy, excitement, disappointment, wherever we are in the timing of crypto and all that, whenever people are watching this. What are your thoughts? Is that just sort of a, kind of novel idea, or do you see that as something in the future, as sort of the future of art, more specifically your art?
Yeah, I mean, I think NFTs have a place. I'm not terribly interested in it. People for a long time, especially once I started doing my vertebra characters, were saying, oh, you should make this NFT, you should make this NFT, because it was kind of like had a similar feel to other NFTs that were successful. But yeah, the whole NFT model, I'm not big on. I did make one NFT as an auction for a fundraiser for Radiopedia, which it didn't sell because I put the price at what my hour time was, which was like several $1,000s, and no one wanted to pay that, which is, fair enough. But I mean, yeah, the NFT world, I think owning digital art is an interesting thing. If you value ownership of art and you are passionate about some digital art, I think that I think it has a role. I just not as big as people I think expect it to be. Because there's a lot of stuff out there that previously would have been put on a sticker for 10 cents that was being sold for thousands of dollars. Which, it's art for sure, but yeah, I'm not big on the NFT world. I do think cryptos are kind of the wave of the future, but yeah, it's going to take some time to sort out the use cases and yeah, I think there's a lot more hype than there is actionable, use value. So yeah, I don't want to dog on it, but I also don't want to like overhype it. So yeah, I think it's just kind of like anything in its infancy. It's hard to know where it's going to go. I'm sure chiropractic was the same in the beginning, too.
That's a fair assessment for sure. When you look at a normal day, and maybe a day is not normal with the varying activities between radiology and art, but I'd love to know about the bridge and the connection between the two. You mentioned using the art as a teaching tool early on, but as you continue to develop and refine a very unique and really cool style of your own, how much inspiration do you draw from the weird and crazy stuff that you'd see on films throughout the day? Or how much do you start noticing things in film based upon your art? How do those two worlds play together?
Yeah, it cuts both ways. So when I'm reading something, and if it's something that I'm confused about, then I do what everyone does, and I start Googling stuff, and I go into the literature, and I figure out what's out there and try and understand it better. And if there's not stuff out there, then I realize that that's an opportunity where I can fill that void. And so then maybe I draw something and I illustrate that concept so that other people don't have to struggle the way that I had to. And so that's kind of that side. But then the other side of it is when I'm doing research, and most of my research isn't basic science or like new content. It's educational research. So I'm summarizing big topic areas where I'm taking a large diverse body of knowledge. I'm trying to distill it down to like a usable format, and then I publish that. So when I'm doing that type of stuff, I'm illustrating something I kind of understand pretty well, but through the illustration process, I come to understand it a lot better, and I kind of pick up on things that I didn't realize I didn't know, right? That I was on the top of the Dunning-Kruger, and then I quickly fall to the other side of it. So sometimes I illustrate to teach, sometimes I illustrate to learn, and it just depends on it tends to happen, organically, just depending on what I'm up to.
Hey, it's Dr. Jason. I just want to take a brief moment and invite you to schedule a demo with our team to learn more about our patient pilot automated email campaigns. They are the smartest way to reactivate the people you've seen over the years in the past. Check it out, schedule a demo. We look forward to helping you help more people, piloting your patients back into your practice. Now back to our show. I really want to encourage those either watching or listening to really look and check out your art. And the creativity of it. I noticed vertebra that were also characters. It's genius how you've taken, Darth Vader and Batman and other Star Wars characters and sort of melded the concept of X-rays and different, science fiction characters and so on. How would you recommend, or how would you like for chiropractors to use these? I'm assuming it wouldn't be a bad thing to have them in chiropractors' offices. Is there a way in which you're thinking about they use this as a teaching tool for their patients, or is it more just that's interesting and creative? Or how would you recommend chiropractors use it? And I'd like to encourage them to go to your, as you said, Etsy store, follow you on Instagram, watch you on YouTube, to really see something that I'll say I've never seen before, that as a chiropractor, you sort of appreciate, knowing the value of the spine and all that goes into it.
Yeah, I mean, if people find my stuff out there and as a reference material, of course, I would encourage them to use it. Or even if there's something they think is missing that they would like to see out there, they can always shoot it my way. And if I think it's something I want to do, I'll do it. But as far as the more artistic things where I'm putting some kind of creative spin on anatomy, certainly that could be an educational tool. I've never really thought of it that way. It's mostly entertainment from my perspective. But yeah, I guess you could definitely have a vertebra character might get a patient more inspired to pay attention to anatomy. And so anyone who's, interested in learning anatomy, I'd like to encourage that. But I bought when was it? About almost a year ago now, I bought a really nice 3D printer, like a Cadillac, and it's still sitting underneath my desk behind me, my art desk. I haven't even turned it on because I just don't have the time. And well, I occasionally have the time. Really, it's the mess I don't want to deal with because it's the resin-based printer, and so there's kind of like, toxic fumes to deal with and stuff. And so it's capable of making these like spectacular like models to like accurate to like sub-millimeter type of detail, way better than you would expect for, traditional 3D printing with like a filament. But so someday I'll probably sell those on my Etsy store and people can buy those models and use them, and they can hold them and things. I don't as much anymore, but I for a while there, I was into doing physical sculptures, where I would sculpt some of these characters out of clay. And those are really nice. I came up with my own clay blend that felt like real bone, so it was really nice to hold them. They had a good weight to them, and I would sand them nicely and stuff. But yeah, people who come into my office at Palmer tend to like to handle those. I did sell a few of them, but the problem is they take like 8 hours to make, so they get really expensive. But yeah, I think as far as like, wall art, definitely, like I love, people displaying my art in the Palmer Radiology Clinic on the West Campus here. We have my art all over the place and people love walking in there and they always comment on it. So, and you can see my reviews on my Etsy store. Offices all over love my Star Wars X-ray art because it's just cool to have X-rays printed on your wall. There's just something about it that's like unique and it's art that you don't expect to find, and it's very, on topic for an office. So, yeah, I would encourage people, to look into that. If not my X-ray art, there's other stuff out there. I think it's just really fun to have X-rays on your wall. Even if you're taking X-rays in your office and you see something cool, like you accidentally X-ray an artifact that's cool, or something that you're passionate about, then yeah, or even better, I would, to get people really into this. I mean, if you have an X-ray machine in your office, I mean that is something not many people have access to in the art community. So you want to X-ray like random objects, you can make cool stuff. Like I X-ray my skateboard. I've sold some prints of that. I have one of those electric skateboards. That's a community that's, doesn't really have a lot of art, about it. So, yeah, I think, people have potential there in people's offices. They could print their own art.
Yeah, the creativity and working in the multiple mediums. One is hard enough. You got multiple mediums going on. It's
Amazing.
Awesome. Before we wrap, I wanted to just spend a moment in the radiology world. I know there's a lot of docs listening. Probably many have worked with the DAC bar in the past. I'm sure some haven't. If you could describe just for a few moments the benefits, or however you want to frame it. What do you do each day? What are the benefits? What do practicing blocks out there you need to know about utilizing a DAC bar? What would you tell them?
Yeah, so I have about 200 clients, offices that send me films regularly, of differing volumes. Some people will send me a case once a year when they have a question. I mean, I have plenty of offices that don't have any imaging equipment. They just have a patient bring in a disc. They want a professional feed. But I really think the value is having someone that someone has spent some time really thinking about with a lot of it, that will put it to a document, written format that they can say, this is what's on my imaging. And certainly, as chiropractors, we have a lot of experience looking at spinal X-rays, but there are a lot of, exotic things out there that, you may not know are there unless you're specifically looking for it. And so I would encourage people to use a DAC bar regularly, because I think we do provide a lot of value in, not only just not missing things, but also in just saying like, when things may or may not be clinically significant, when it may be safe to treat patients versus not, because really, that's the hardest question to answer is, is it safe to treat them? So, so what does it look like when people submit films to me? So, generally, the way my practice operates is when someone sets up an account with me, it's free. And then, I set up a portal that they can upload, securely images. And then I write my report, I PDF it, and then I just email it back. And so it's a pretty streamlined process. I have, as many of us do, I have 24-hour turnaround time, Monday through Thursday. And so if you have a patient coming in the next day, you can expect that report there. I read overnight because I have my day job at Palmer. So usually from about, 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. is when I'm reading cases. So people have that email. They'll usually get an email from me 2 to 3 a.m. and then, they'll be ready for the next morning. So, So yeah, I think it's probably more convenient to get reads than many people realize. It's pretty affordable, $25 per region. So I probably should increase my prices to adjust for inflation, but I haven't changed my probably 8 years or so. And so my prices are getting cheaper as money is getting more expensive. So yeah, definitely recommend it.
Absolutely. Well, Matt, we really appreciate you taking the time and sharing. We're going to drop links down below so everybody can connect, whether it's for art, whether it is for radiology. We're also going to encourage everybody, please follow along, subscribe to his YouTube channel, follow along on Instagram. There's some awesome content going out, whether you want to learn about radiology, have some entertainment and fun on the art world. Matt, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us.
Yeah, thank you so much. I was happy to be here. I love talking about my work.
Thank you so much for watching this video on the Smart Chiropractor. To not miss a single thing that's clinically oriented, marketing oriented, or more, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel today.